Right, here are our second guests in the show now, ready to saddle up for a huge challenge in the next few weeks. Well, one of them is at least. Major David Heath French is here, along with his wife and challenger, Debbie, to tell you more about a 600-kilometre bike ride, which starts in just a few short weeks, and explain why he's doing it as well. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
How are you feeling?
Not too bad. I'm okay.
Yeah?
I'm in fairly good spirits.
Fairly good spirits.
We're about 2.5 weeks away from the big day, but feeling good.
Tell us about the ride. I mentioned that it's 600 kilometres. I make that about 400 miles.
Yes, yeah, not far off at all. Yeah, it's a little bit more. It's about 650, just shy of 650 kilometres in total.
Did you round it down just to make yourself feel a little bit better about it?
Psychologically, yes.
Yeah.
It's easier knocking 50 kilometres.
Psychologically.
Yeah, I like that.
See?
That's clever, that.
Yeah, you can use that.
You've been practicing this. So where does it start and where does it finish?
It starts at the Kelpies, the horse heads of the Kelpies, just outside Stirling.
Yep.
And it finishes down in a place called Bedworth, just outside Coventry.
Okay. And so this was, Debbie, I think you challenged David to this.
Yeah, I've tried to force David, well, we've been together 21 years, into dressage, show jumping, polo. Nah. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, you can't get out of this. So what about cycling? So he decided, he hadn't been on a bike for 25 years, decided to do a coast-to-coast with his unit last year. I can't remember how long you were away for, but that went well. So I was like, well, why don't you go from the Kelpies down to Western Lawns, which is the Equestrian Events and Conference Centre, which is where we're having FEG. And he was like, okay. Okay.
Is that really what you said?
Yeah, it was. Honestly.
Pretty much. Yeah. You know, I mean, we just wanted to try and come up with an extra idea of how we could raise as much money for our charities. And when Debbie mentioned this, I was like, okay. And also it gave me, 11 months preparation time or whatever to get my head around it.
Sure.
and try and get my body in some sort of gear.
So look, let's work, because you mentioned FEG, and we need to explore what that is in just a minute. But you mentioned the charities, David. So there are 4 of them, I think, that you're supporting.
Yes, there are. So SAFA, the Armed Forces charity,
Yeah.
Police Care UK,
Yeah.
NHS Charities Together, and the Firefighters charity.
And they're all charities which are close to both of your collective hearts.
Yeah, so Forces Equine is made up of the members that appear in there. So it's Armed Forces and Emergency Responders Community, serving veterans and independents of. So those were all our members for Forces Equine. So it just made sense to pick the 4 charities that can directly support those individuals.
Yeah. And so, Debbie, you mentioned FEG, Forces Equine Games.
Correct.
So that's where David's going to be finishing, walking a bit like John Wayne. Actually, you could then hop on a horse, because you'd be built for that, wouldn't you, at that point? Your backside's going to be absolutely...
I'll probably be a better rider, to be fair.
So, how did the Forces Equine Games come about? What's the background to that?
Forces Equine, which is the parent, started 18 years ago this May.
Right.
And it basically, when I was with David, when you got posted all the time, if you had horses, you didn't know where your vet was, your farrier, the local saddler, whatever. So I started a signpost website, and in 2012, British Show Jumping, which is a governing body, approached and said they want a partnership with us, and then that followed with BD and BE. But in 2013, because the Olympics were in 2012, I said, well, let's do our own event, and that's where Forces Equine Games came from, which we call FEG because it's just easier. But it brings like-minded individuals, all of our members together, even friends of members, so they want to come and see what it's all about. But they do really, really tough jobs, and they love their horses. It's nice for them to get together, do what they love, but also if they've had a bad day, bad couple of months, whatever, they can sit with like-minded individuals that just go, yeah, I know what you're going through, but they actually do.
Yes.
So it really does work well. And, we've got really competitive people, and then we've got people like myself that just want to hang out with like-minded individuals, my steed, and just have a bit of fun.
Yeah. So that's where you're going to be finishing up after your mammoth ride then, David?
Yes.
I'm sure Debbie will be there with a cool drink, maybe a massage and whatever else. What you do in your private life, how's your training going?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
It's going okay. I don't want to be too confident, but I've managed to get out for some long rides by myself in a variety of different conditions, and try and do like between 70 and 100 kilometre rides at a time. And just get yourself out there and get into the elements and that side of things.
Yeah.
And also, kind of luckily, if you want to view it that way, I've had a couple of punctures and flat tyres. So you have to practice all that. It's learning about the bike as well as actually being able to physically do it, so you can be self-sufficient as much as possible.
Well, look, I wish you all the luck in the world with that and with the event as well. I know you're all over social media, so find out more and get behind some brilliant causes. David and Debbie, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Appreciate your time.